Hey, welcome back to the Wisdom Vault, Dr. Sonja TV. Have you ever thought about how other people handle stress or toxic people that are in their life? You know, I sat back once and I started thinking about, like, how does everybody else handle those people that are in your family that are causing stress that it may be toxic? And I began to look at it a little differently. And I know that some are going to say something totally different, but this is just my belief, especially in the space in which I occupy. And I wish more people talked about it. And maybe you've been looking for this content or this conversation. Well, I'm going to have it today. So we're going to talk about how do you handle family members that may be toxic or stress you out. Let's get into it. You know, I've realized, even in this space where I am right now, and the more I begin to grow my company, the more I begin to grow personal development and being a thought leader, I realize that I can't tolerate a lot of toxic conversations or negativity or a lot of stress. Now, I don't know about you, but I could just say this for me. I've been in a place where I was clinically depressed, went through depression and was clinically depressed. And I never want to go back there again. And I believe, just for me, of what happened is because there was so much pressure for me to be a particular person, or so much pressure from the job, or so much pressure from being a single mom, or so much pressure from going through a divorce. And maybe that's the case for you, but maybe not. But I know what was taking place, that I needed to eliminate a lot of the stress and the pressure that was around me. And so what I began to learn over the years is how to handle toxic family members that really stress you out. And one of the biggest things is, number one, that I would say for you is to create boundaries. You know, we say that, some people talk about it, some people say it, but I'm really going to share with you, how do you create boundaries around those people? Now, if you're married to that person and you have to sleep with them every single night or something like that, that's a different ball game. I'm going to highly recommend you go get counseling for yourself. And if you can, ask them to go with you so you both can get it. But if it's just someone that doesn't live in your household, and this is not someone you have to per se see every single day, and this may be different if it's someone that's on your job, but I'm just talking about family right now. Again, it's boundaries. Creating boundaries so you don't have to talk to them every single day. Now, I'm not saying just walk away from them completely, but it may get to that. And if it does get to that, you have to make a decision, especially when you're creating boundaries. Is this person, if they remain here, will it affect my health? Will it affect how I feel, how I think about myself, and how I think about them? When you start getting to that place where it is like, somebody help me, they are driving me nuts, they're stressing me out. It's time to put boundaries in place. And that is, how often do you talk to them? Let's say as your mom, like, you love your mother, but you can't deal with the toxic relationship that is created. Or maybe it's a child, an adult child, or maybe it's a dear friend that you consider like a sibling to you. Those conversations are very short, and the conversations like, hey, I'm just calling to check on you, to make sure you're okay. And as soon as they get to that space and that place, you have the responsibility to deter the conversation to something else, start another conversation, or politely say, you know, I was just calling to check on you. That's all I have right now, and I'll check on you in the next week or two. I love you. Be blessed. Bye. That's it. Because if you stay on the conversation too long, you know it's going to end up possibly in an argument, or it's going to end up where you're crying, or you're yelling, or you're fussing, or they fuss, or whatever the case may be. This is how do you handle family members that may be toxic or that stress you out. So again, one is boundaries. The second thing, if you're able to sit down and have a very candid conversation without yelling, and maybe having a mediator there to help you, someone that doesn't have any skin in the game, that doesn't really care about you, not a family, not a friend, someone can come in and mediate the conversation to help both of you see both sides of the coin. And if you can get that, if you can have that, be sure to do that. At least you can say what? I tried. I absolutely tried. Now, I know many won't agree because I always hear family is important. Family is. But not if it's going to cause me harm mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. That's not healthy. That's why those boundaries are so important. And the second one, as I shared, is getting a mediator to sit and have a conversation with you. If it's going to cause you harm, you have to be responsible over your own temple and your own body to have a conversation with them so it doesn't continue to grow into a place in a space where it begins to cause harm to you. And last but not least, if a family member is toxic and they're causing you stress, I will share very briefly with you two situations that I just went through, and I'm being very transparent at this moment. It is more about the adult child that I have. Love him dearly. That's my firstborn. I love him, but he stresses me. So much so at one point I was beginning to have really bad headaches. And when he called once, I had to create boundaries. And I tell my inner circle clients about this all the time about adult children. I'd heard about it, but I watched my mother go through so many things with my siblings, right? Bless her soul now, but I watched it as the youngest of 12 kids. And I said, man, I can't imagine what she had to deal with going through all of that. Right? Alcoholism, all of that. And again, it was just when it happens, my child may call me and he may be intoxicated or something like that. And I say, hey, I love you, but I can't talk to you right now. You call back when you're sober, or you call back, later on, or I'll call and check on him. But it causes a strain in our relationship. And it's very unfortunate. And I'm being very honest because I know it has not just happened to me. There's so many other parents that are out there that have these conversations or have to have these conversations, or they just cut their children off completely. That is not something that I'm advising that you do, but I am advising that you start looking at how much stress or pressure has this caused you, to include them going through the process. And the last situation was a very dear friend that I considered family. And trying to explain to them what was taking place was never resolved or understood. And so instead of getting into a heated argument, instead of arguing about it and taking it to a whole nother level, I made a decision just to remove myself because there was a lot of lying going on. There was a lot of things that were happening, and I would share it, but I could have done a better job of sharing it even more and sitting down. But because it stressed me so much, I made a decision that I can't do this after time, especially when we're both adults. And so what I'm sharing with all of you right now, if you're in a situation, and I have to share my personal experience because I never want to come to you on Wisdom Vault, Dr. Sonja TV, and share what you should do when I haven't experienced it myself. And what I'm sharing is only my recommendation. You get to control how you play this out. I'm just giving an example of what you can do. So I would say as quick as possible, create boundaries, have a conversation, and really start thinking about how can I do this better so it could be best for both of us, not just you or me, but have a better outcome for you so you don't have to be around toxic people and you don't have to be stressed in those relationships. This is Dr. Sonja. I'll see you on the next Wisdom Vault.